I am a learning coach and I've trained thousands of students and professionals around the world. I've also trained and worked with Dr. Justin Sung, who is the leading voice in practical learning science with over 1.7 million subscribers on YouTube. In this video, I want to talk about the best way to start learning any non-fiction self-help book. Okay. So the first step that we have to do is we have to just get our keywords really quickly. So this book is called The Toolkit for Turbulence, and I'm actually going to put the book away. I'm not reading it. Right? So you might be thinking, hang on, isn't the best way to start learning a book starting to read it? The answer is no. We don't want to read it yet. We actually don't want to open up this book yet. We're going to put it to the side. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, any LLM that I'm using here. And this is actually what I specifically want to do. What I want to do is I want to ask for a list of 30 keywords from the book itself. And I want to ask this list in random order that isn't grouped. Okay, I'm going to say that again. We're going to ask for keywords, 30 keywords from the book that we're trying to learn. In this situation here, the Toolkit for Turbulence. It's going to be in a random order and it's not going to be a grouped list. Okay. The reason we want to do this is because if we were to ask for keywords from a book, it would probably, an LLM might give us lots of keywords. So we can just limit it to 30. And the reason we don't want to have it in an order is because we don't actually want to fall into what we call a framing bias. So this is actually the same reason why we don't start off with reading the book yet. There are very valuable representations and very valuable information actually stored in your brain already about this book or the book that you're learning. So I know it sounds crazy, but basically there's this theory that talks about how your brain stores information in these maps, right? Just imagine like if you had to open up someone's brain, don't do this, but if your brain was organizing thoughts and memories, it's basically stored in like these maps and these interconnected bits of webs, and we call those schemas. And one of the most popular kind of learning theories called schema theory suggests that our brain organizes the information in these maps. And before we read any book, Toolkit for Turbulence, Atomic Habits, any self-help book, we actually don't want to open the book yet. We want to just quickly examine our brains. We want to just take a look at the relationships that already exist in our brain regarding the book that we're about to study. For example, I haven't really studied organizational psychology to a very, very in-depth, like PhD or research level, but I've done quite a few assignments of it at university, and I actually did one today. So I've already got some prior knowledge about organizational psychology in my brain. And what I want to do is I actually want to actualize that first. I want to get that out. I want to activate that. We call that activation, schema activation or pre-activation. And the reason this is so valuable, and again, I haven't done the demonstration yet, I'm still kind of setting some theory, is because, again, there's already a lens of thinking about this information in our brains. We've already got a framework. There's a way that our brain likes to leverage and understand this topic. So even before I even jump into the book, I'm putting it to the side. For the next 30 minutes, I'm actually not reading the book. So you can see I've kind of maybe tricked you there, and I apologize, but it doesn't actually matter what book you pick. You just need to get the keywords as we have here on this list. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot of these lists, and I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that. So that was our keyword collection process. Didn't really take that long. We can use AI here, and maybe like maximum we want to spend 2 minutes here, literally collecting these keywords. So remember, the prompt that we can put is, hey, can you please give me a list of 30 keywords for this self-help book? Please put it in a random order and please do not group it. And then we can get this list of keywords here as we have here. So you can see these are some keywords on the Toolkit for Turbulence. Honestly, I'm looking at them and I'm kind of intimidated because I don't know what some of them are. Like, I don't know what advantage leader means. I don't know what adept model is, non-linear challenges. Is there such thing as linear challenges? I actually don't know what's going on. So what I'm going to do now, for the next 10 minutes, I'm just going to set that timer. What I want to do is I actually want to just use my brain, and I want to engage in what we call pre-activation, right? So even before, or I'd like to say activation. So what we're doing is that we're activating our brain's original way of thinking about this information. We're relying on prior knowledge. We're using hypotheses to do this step. And we're not looking at Google, all right? This is the important part. We're using our brains here. I'm not picking this book up again, right? I'm not going to Google what is advantage leader, what is nonlinear challenges. I'm going to set this timer for 10 minutes and I'm just going to spend time trying to figure out what are some of the relationships that exist between this information and how do I think it could be structured. I'm using an iPad in this demonstration. I'd encourage you to use a whiteboard. I'd encourage you to use a piece of paper. You're more than welcome to use that. Get that out for yourself. If you want to use these keywords, you're more than welcome to use these keywords as well. But I'm just going to set a timer for 10 minutes and I'm going to try finding as many relationships that exist between these keywords. I'm going to speak out as I do that. So let's set a timer for 10 minutes. Let's try finding as many keyword relationships. And again, I'm using my brain. I'm not using anything else. Nothing else at all. Cool, let's get through it. So if I take a look here, advantage leader. Well, I mean, it's talking about a person. So I guess it's talking about leadership. I might start off with this one, leader. Here we go. Let me see if there's any other keywords related to leader. Learning loops, turbulence, team building, proactive leadership, crisis leadership. So I feel like these kind of relate. Proactive leadership and then crisis leadership. I mean, crisis leadership sounds scary, but it also sounds kind of cool. So that's one thing that leads. I think leadership also leads into a bit of team building as well, because they're kind of important for team building. Okay. All right, I'm already seeing some good relationships there. Team building is one of those keywords that I'm seeing here too. So I might just put team as a keyword here. Team. Okay, so we've got leader. Now we've got team. Team building. Culture is actually one thing that I think teams need for sure. What else? Proactive, reactive defense, volatile environments, guided frameworks, workplace turbulence, leadership playbooks. Leadership playbooks, I feel like that kind of relates to a little bit of leaders, but not only that, leadership playbook sounds like a rule set. So I think what we're going to do here as well is we will do leadership playbooks. Guided frameworks? Maybe that works. Adversity advantage. High stakes situations. Collaborative sharing kind of seems like a team thing. Maybe it seems like something that would happen in the, collaboration, team, leadership. Okay. So as I'm doing this demonstration, we're a few minutes in. Something I need to note as well is that learning happens in the brain. Like I'm doing this demonstration right now and you can see there's some stuff that I'm doing on my iPad, but this is what's visible. This is the studying technique that I'm using right now, just trying to connect information and activate the activation, the theorize kind of phase. But learning happens here. So it's unlikely that if you actually copy what I'm doing right now, you're not going to achieve the same effect if you're not really using your brain and experiencing that difficulty. So that's an important note as well. Learning happens in the brain, it doesn't happen on paper. These techniques that I'm using right now, it's only meant to trigger a favorable cognitive process, right? Okay, let's keep going through it. Okay, we've got team so far, we've got leadership here too. Okay, challenges. I think challenge / turbulence is like a keyword that they like to use here. That seems to be challenge, turbulence. I think those kind of relate together. Maybe they interrelate. Resilience is like a characteristic. It's like a reaction that you would want. Reaction. So I think resilience is there. Recalibrate, kind of like a reactionary process. Disruption kind of relates to turbulence. I feel like these things are like on the same part. Ambiguity, I feel like that's kind of related with turbulence as well. Adaptive mindset, I feel like that's a nice way that you want to react. Uncertainty navigation, it seems like another way of reacting as well. Reactive defense, another way of reacting. Lots of relationships reacting. Change agility, I think that is like more of a descriptor of how quick one can change, potentially, from what I understand. So that could be something here too. Change agility. Yeah. I think that's like the ability to just make change happen or solve something. So solve or change something. That's kind of like what I'm seeing. Crisis lead, volatile environments, high stakes situations. I feel like that kind of relates to turbulence. Okay. Sustainable performance. So what I'm doing now is at least trying to find some sort of relationships that exist, and a lot of these relationships, again, it's just prior knowledge, right? They're just using intuition. Some of these I just know they just don't connect. Some of them I know they connect. For example, adept model and resilience. I just don't see a relationship between those two. Like I don't see how those two are connected. But resilience and recalibrate, and then ambiguity. I could see how those all relate. Reactive defense. I could see like for me that makes sense. Advantage leader really relates to a lot of these kind of leadership related things here as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be a bit silent. But what I want to do is I'm just going to circle them in blue. I'm going to think about these keywords that came to my mind as well, these blue ones, and I'm going to quickly think about how they relate as well. All right. Okay. So we're ending this part of the activation. I'm really trying to use my brain to just think a little bit more about everything here. But we are almost at time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm probably going to just stop my timer. There we go. Just got 2 seconds left. There we go. All right, done. And you can see what we've just done there is we've activated. So I'll just walk you through how I was thinking. So I was definitely using my brain, and I was definitely trying to think about some things that I've been learning about organizational psychology from my own studies of psychology. Also, just the frameworks that we apply at work as well. I'm thinking about how there are certain events at work that allow me to make sense of this information too. I'm also trying to think about analogies that come quite quick to me as well and think about everything. And here right now, it's super messy. So what we want to do, probably just for 5 minutes, is I want to now clean up this representation of information and I want to group it because this is very overwhelming. If you were to ask me to close my eyes and try recalling this to you, I couldn't. So at that point, it's useless because we've got all these relationships here and I've activated my brain. I've activated these maps that exist in my mind by doing this, but I still need to organize it and clean it up because at the end of the day, our note taking is an organization of thoughts. So an organization of thoughts is futile if you cannot recall it. For this reason, you can already see how this process of relating information is a lot more superior than just typing it up because it's unlikely that you'll be able to recall all those lines. So for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to clean up some of these relationships and group them together. So this technique is also called chunking. So it's taking a lot of elements. So if there's like a list of 30 keywords as we have here in many relationships, I want to find a way to explain it using maybe 4 or 5 keywords. So that way I don't have to tell you about all 30 of these keywords. I'll be able to be like, hey, this is what the topic is about. This is what the toolkit for turbulence is about. And again, we will talk more about what you can do with this map and when you finally start reading the book, how you can make the most of this. So for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to clean this up starting now and group it. Okay. Okay, so almost halfway through the timer, but this is what I'm thinking about as an organization. And there's reaction, and based on the reaction, there's always going to be a change involved in some way, shape, or form. Here we go. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about. Obviously, there's like a toolkit. There was something about guided frameworks as well. Guided frameworks. Here too. Adversity advantage. I've no idea where I might put that. Maybe I put that here. Adversity advantage. of belongs there. That's the general direction I'm seeing. Performance psychology, kind of related to the reaction here as well. So performance psychology kind of belongs there too. Performance psychology, I feel like, yeah, that's like the broad group it belongs in. And change is what led to proactive leadership and then reactive defense. Kind of reactive leadership kind of sounds like a good way of trying to think about how this might be organized. Okay, but this is one structure I'm thinking about that explains the main big picture. Another one, if I really had to force myself to think about it, turbulence, reaction, maybe turbulence leads into like either a reactive approach leads to reactive, and then there's also a proactive approach that leadership can take. And then based on everything, it seems like we want to take a proactive approach. So proactive should always be the option of a reactive. And based on that, there's always going to be a change no matter what. Even if we don't react, not reacting is a change too. That's something I'm thinking about. One more structure. Oof. That doesn't start off with turbulence. I think maybe... I don't know. And then under proactive, there's like tools, right? That kind of seems to be one thing. All right, one more within the next 40 seconds. Let's go. Okay, maybe it's we want to go for more reactionary, and we want to move towards proactive measures. And the way that we want to do that is through tools and frameworks. And maybe that's a structure that could work as well. We don't necessarily need turbulence there. Okay, that's time up. So again, what I did in this process here is I really tried to think about, all right, I've got all of these keywords here. I've got so many relationships here. It's impossible for me to even just like think about how I can consolidate that all within 5 minutes. So for me, it's like, screw it. Let me spend 5 minutes anyway. And let me just really prioritize what those main ones are. Because if I can prioritize those main ones, what that then means is that I'm able to just think about the information a lot more and not have to just prioritize the information. So you can see what we've done here was the first step was to collect keywords, just make that really quick using AI. The second one was to just engage in that activation phase where we're using our brains, we're using theories, we're trying to think about how information connects. We're being quite liberal with these relationships. We're making lots of interim relationships. We're being quite quick with it. The third one here was to group, right? What we were doing here was that we're kind of finding that, yes, there's so much information here, but I just can't represent all this information that quick. It takes time. So, and I can't do this in the like quickest amount of time. I just want to quickly get to it. So that's something that we've ended up here with. Now we've got these 3 different relationships, these 3 different ways of mapping out the topic. And I'm quite happy with this so far because, I mean, it's only 26 minutes into the video and maybe I spent like the first 3-4 minutes explaining. So within 21-ish minutes, I've already got an exposure to some keywords on the topic. I've also got relationships going on, and I've got these huge, more like big picture understanding of what the topic is about. I've got the skeleton of what the topic is about, and these skeletons I'm feeling quite happy with. So there's 3 here, and I've really forced myself to just push myself to find another one. I don't want to be comfortable with one. There is one about turbulence leading into leadership. Turbulence is handed to leadership and leadership has to react. And based on that reaction, there's always a change. There's turbulence and there's either a reactive or a proactive kind of process that will occur. And obviously we want to train more of a proactive approach, and then we can go for change there, which will always lead to change. Finally, there is a reactionary approach that most leaders take. We want to be more proactive, and the way that we can do that is through tools leading into that. So for me, which one do I like the most? I like this first one the most, just because there's a few things I'm thinking about. these models here, these two here suggest that reaction is bad. So I've theorized that proactive is better than reactive, but you actually can't be, from my experience, this is what I was thinking about prior knowledge, right? From what I've realized from a lot of the mentoring that I've gotten, you cannot be proactive about everything. It's actually impossible. So therefore, not only are you meant to train your ability to be proactive, yes, but you also need to be reactive, and you need to be really good at reacting. So I think these two are a bit subpar because they make the assumption that proactive is better than reactive, but they're just two different states of action in relation to the time of turbulence, whether it's pre-turbulence, which would be proactive, then post-turbulence, which would be reactive, right? So maybe it's like kind of both. Maybe there's no relationship that necessarily exists between them. I don't know. So for this one, I probably wouldn't follow through with it. The second one, turbulence, proactive, reactive. Second one, maybe I'll keep it on the side, right? First one, I think I like the one the most. All right, cool. So now, we've got these groups here. And again, learning is happening in the brain. So even though you're seeing these things on paper, there are certain things happening in my brain that I'm not going to have enough time to explain in this video in depth, but just generally just trying to show, I really had to think about challenging myself and trying to think about another structure. But now what we're going to do is we're just going to spend the last 5 minutes cleaning up. Now that I've got the structure that I like a little bit, I'm going to go through the keyword list again, and I'm going to make sure that I'm able to find a way to quickly list out where all the keywords relatively belong. And I want to be really quick here. So again, 5 minutes. And again, I haven't picked up the book yet. Like everything, all this thinking I'm doing is all based on just prior knowledge. Towards the end of the session, I'll talk about how you can use this map. Okay, cool. All right, so let me just set a timer for 5 minutes and let me just go through all these keywords and find out where I think these keywords would belong. Starting a timer for now. Cool. Okay, so leadership, advantage leader. I think this would kind of go into leadership. Reaction, I think there's proactive and then reactive here. I think those are like two kind of keywords that would belong under this. And then turbulence has disruption, adversity, and ambiguity in it. So I think like disruption is like one of those key things that lead into turbulence. Disruption, and then I think adversity is like another keyword that might lead into turbulence as well. Maybe these are kind of correlated. And then there's like a keyword talking about adversity advantage. Adversity advantage. I have no idea what that means, but I just feel like based on what they're trying to say through this keyword, there's an advantage that people have during adversity. Potentially people are more open to change maybe during adversity. I'm not sure. So that's something that I'm going to put there. Adversity advantage. There we go. Okay, so that's something that I'm seeing there, and maybe that relates with proactive. Like you want to be proactive about recognizing that you've got an advantage because there's so much adversity. So that's already a few keywords ticked off. Advantage leader, I think that's where advantage leader might come from. So maybe advantage is like here. Like it's actually an advantage to, yeah. Like adversity is an advantage for leadership. And okay, yeah, I'm just going to put that. I think that's good enough. Non-linear challenges. So maybe turbulence is what leads to a challenge being occurred. And then there's linear challenges, but then turbulence suggests like non-linear. When I think about non-linear, I think about things that are like not easy. So potentially most of the challenges are non-linear because linear challenges are quite easy to solve. That's my prediction anyway. Adept model, I have no idea, but honestly, that just kind of sounds like a tool that people would use. Adept model, I feel like that's like a tool that the book is going to teach about how to react proactively. And yeah, I think that's one thing there. Learning loop, no idea. Genuinely, I think this just got to do something with another tool that we could use. All right, cool. Let's keep going. Performance psychology. I think this is like the underpinning of the tools. I don't know. I'll get back to it later. Performance psychology, I think it just still relates to some of the reasons or some of the places that the frameworks come from. So, I'm just going to quickly just put that there. Who cares? Visual models, yeah, I'm just going to put like the fact that these are all visual, I guess. Visual models, it kind of belongs in this part of the mind map, the top right, nowhere else. Cool. Turbulence, I've already got. Adaptive mindset, I feel like that's a characteristic of a good leader. So maybe I could put like good here and then bad leader here, and then there could be like adaptive mindset. So I've only got 90 seconds. Okay, let's keep going. 5 shares, I'm just going to put that under probably another thing. Okay, these groups are starting to become a bit redundant. Resilience, recalibrate, disruption, ambiguity. So I'm going to put like resilience here. I'm going to put change as reaction as recalibrate, maybe. I don't know. I'm just going to put that there. I think that belongs somewhere there. Recalibrate. There we go. All right. Team building, one culture. Oh, I didn't even talk about the team. Leadership change is what influences the team. So maybe that should have been a main idea. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, team. So culture is going to be there. That's going to be one keyword. There 2, change, agility, crisis leadership, volatile environments. So maybe volatile environments would be a keyword that belongs somewhere here. I'm not going to put that. Guided frameworks, easy. It just kind of goes under here. Guided frameworks and visual, whatever the other word was, visual models, kind of useless. I don't really see them to be keywords that makes me learn more. Leadership playbooks, again, useless keyword. Advanced lead advantage. I got that. High stake situations kind of goes with environment, the environment keyword that we talked about there as well. High stakes, I think it just kind of belongs in this part of the mind map. Flexibility building, collaborative sharing. Okay, maybe that's part of team. Collaborative sharing. All right, done. Okay, done. So you can see I've kind of run out of time there, and the timers are useful because it added that pressure for me to just keep going. I'm just going to quickly go. Uncertainty navigation, I just think it belongs under reaction, like uncertainty navigation. There we go. Yeah. So I'm just going to, I just have to quickly. Proactive leadership, I already got that. Reactive defense, I think I kind of got that. Maybe just the specific keyword I can just put here. Reactive defense, who cares? Change agility. Man, just kind of put that here. All right, crisis leadership, I think that's part of like a good thing to have, right? You want to have that. Workplace turbulence, I feel like I already discussed that. Flexibility building, sustainable performance, collaborative sharing. I got collaborative sharing. Just this 5 shares I already got. Training, I didn't even get that. I'm not even going to bother. Flexibility building, sustainable performance. Okay. Sustainable performance, I think it goes under team. You don't want unsustainable performance. Sustainable performance. Maybe like unsustainable performance is what leads into turbulence. I don't know. And then finally, we've got flexibility building. Maybe it goes into change, flexibility, because not having enough flexibility could maybe lead into turbulence. I don't know. Cool. Okay, done. All right, so now you can see it's 36 minutes into the video, and that's just a demonstration of exactly what I would actually do before I start reading this book. Now, what I've actually done here is you can see the mind map is still very, very messy, and again, we want to spend a little bit more time to clean it up later on, but this is literally what I would do before reading any book. Now, I actually feel like I have a good understanding of generally what the book is probably going to talk about based on prior knowledge. I've just guessed what it could be. So what's going to happen is that there's going to be turbulence that's talked about and sources of turbulence, like how turbulence actually comes about, the definition of turbulence, the types of turbulence, things that can cause turbulence. Maybe once you've even created a change, that can also arguably lead back into turbulence in itself. And that's one of those major ideas. And there's other synonyms used like disruption and adversity. But that turbulence then makes its way onto the plate of leadership, or it doesn't make its way into the plate of leadership sometimes, which would be considered bad leadership. But, turbulence and adversity is actually an advantage for leadership to catalyze a change and also kind of think about a reaction. And then what's talked about here is that there's like a few ways of reacting. Now that I think about it, reactive and proactive, they kind of just seem redundant, so I probably wouldn't even use them as much anymore. But there's like multiple models and perspectives, learning loops, edit model, 5 shares. There's like visual models and guided frameworks to use, leadership frameworks. There was also something about, I can't even read my handwriting anymore. Recalibrate. Yes, that's right. Recalibrating as well. There was also about change as like a core idea being talked about too, and team as well. Team was one of those main ideas that was missing. So what I might do from now is that I might just spend like literally, I won't do this in the video, but I might just spend 5 minutes just really cleaning this up and trying to make this a bit cleaner to see, just because you can see there's like a lot of relationships going on. But you can see I spent those first 5 minutes just adding as much as I could to the mind map and just being aggressive, just go, 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 like fire, just go, like you cannot stop, you keep going, like that kind of perspective, right? And then what I might do for the next 5 minutes is I might clean it up. And practically what this might look like is I'm going to just rearrange really quickly, and I'm going to put myself in that pressure to clean it up. And then by the end, I should have a relatively cleaner mind map. And that mind map in itself, I mean, to be honest, I feel like this mind map's not even that messy compared to a lot of the ones that I teach, that I see my learners do. And yeah, that's actually the process. So you can see, I have not actually read the book yet. Like I have not gone through anything yet. But this has put me in a really good position. My brain is already thinking about the information in this way, and I'm quite happy with this representation of information. And it hasn't been that long. It's only been 30 minutes. And imagine if I do this before entering a class. Maybe if I have to discuss this book tomorrow in a class, I could do it really well, like just based on prior knowledge. But let's talk about the next steps, because obviously I don't want to leave this video without kind of concluding. So what's going to happen now is that, again, we're going to spend those 5 minutes just cleaning up the mind map. That's what you'd want to do. And I just think this mind map is okay. I would probably want to make a little bit of the handwriting a bit cleaner, but that's fine for now. And what we're going to essentially do is we are just going to read the book as you would usually read a book. There are definitely a lot of principles that I recommend for many of my learners who read these types of books. I won't go into it in this video, but now I can't show you the book insides, but now we're in a position to just read it as we would. So many people tend to read these books linearly. So what I mean by that is they start off with page 1 and they end off with the last page. But that's an approach you can take if you want. You're more than welcome to take that approach where you read, and as I'm reading it, you know, there's a few bits of information being talked about here. And this is the beauty of what we just did. We spent all that time activating, right? This is the beauty. Think about it. Now as I'm reading this page, so this page here is talking about the concept of advantage leaders. I'm reading about it, and basically what it's saying right now is that advantage leaders are actually case studies. So for me, if I didn't do that activation process where I just made this map here, I would have no idea what an advantage leader is. Like, it would be my first time thinking about this concept ever. But now that I've activated it and I've put it on the map, I have some sort of understanding and some sort of guess of what an advantage leader is. And so this is the beautiful part of it. I get to then either confirm this relationship or deny it. And this is what actually leads to very high quality learning, because now as I'm reading this book, it's comparative learning. I'm taking a look back at this schema that I've built, this really quick, messy mind map that I've built of my thoughts. And as I'm reading the book, I'm always trying to think about how does it fit into this schema that I've made, this mind map, right? Schema being like a map. How does it fit there? How does it either deny, or how do I change my schema so I can make it fit? And I'm going to continue reading the book as I usually would, right? Most of you are reading it from start to finish. Something that I recommend to my learners, this is more of an advanced method. You want to actually control the order in which you read the book. So for example, sometimes it doesn't actually make sense to start from chapter 1, just because maybe turbulence, right? That's the first thing that my brain actually thought about, like turbulence as the origin. But as I'm going through this book here, let me just quickly, can I take a look? I actually don't think turbulence, it doesn't actually seem like turbulence is the first idea that is discussed. The first idea that is discussed is the nature of problems and mindset. So you can see, I probably wouldn't start off with chapter 1 and 2, just because it makes no sense for me. I would rather start off with turbulence, right? So there you go. That's like a small strategy. Again, we're not gonna have enough time to go through it in this video. So that's actually one of the best ways to start reading any non-fiction book, especially if it's a non-fiction book that you really want to master and apply, whether that's in your business, whether that's in your personal life. Again, some of these points could be related to some of your personal lives, like turbulence leading to leadership. Like there's so many examples of, just now that I think about it, there are so many examples where in the business, there have been like so many events of turbulence, and there's like been arguments, or there's been structural changes, there's been new technology that has come out, there's been deadlines that we have to meet. I can already think about so many personal experiences where kind of knowing this order would have been quite useful. So I guess this already puts me in a pretty good spot to start learning more about this. But that's the general start of learning any nonfiction book. And again, learning happens in the brain. So today's video, I really tried just demonstrating what it would look like on paper and tried kind of metacognitively narrating my thought process. But by the end of this video, if you try copying my process, you're not going to be able to fully grasp the way that my brain is thinking about the information, just because that's going to require a lot more of a deeper dissection. So if that's something that you're interested in, let me know in the comments.